The Kremlin has made another attempt to discredit Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Putin became the main spokesman of another Russian disinformation campaign. At a press conference in Tashkent, he referred to Article 111 of the Ukrainian Constitution and said that the only legitimate authority in Ukraine today is the Verkhovna Rada and the Speaker of the Ukrainian Parliament. And if they want to, they could cancel martial law and hold elections.
Putin grossly misrepresented the Ukrainian Constitution and Ukrainian domestic law on May 28 in order to further promote the Kremlin information operation claiming that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is no longer the legitimate president of Ukraine. Putin inaccurately cited Article 111 of the Ukrainian Constitution, however, which actually states the president of Ukraine may be removed from office by the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine by impeachment if he commits treason or another crime, from a report by the Institute for the Study of War.
Russia's attempts to spread confusion in Ukraine and disorientate Kyiv's allies are pointless. All the actions of the Ukrainian authorities are legal, unlike those taken by Russian government. Moscow is accustomed to rewriting the constitution at the will of the Kremlin dictator in order to nullify and continue his term in the Kremlin indefinitely.
I would recommend curious readers to study the text of our constitution not selectively and pay attention to Part 1 of Article 108. The President of Ukraine shall exercise his powers until the newly elected President of Ukraine takes office. In democratic societies, this is called continuity of power. But this continuity is not in eternity like in Russia, but in normal democratic and security understanding. Therefore, the President of Ukraine is, and until the end of martial law, will be Volodymyr Zelenskyy. And all this is in accordance with the Constitution and laws of Ukraine. Ruslan Stefanchuk, chairman of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, on Facebook.
In addition, Article 11.4 of the Constitution says the powers of the President of Ukraine provided by the Constitution of Ukraine may not be restricted in conditions of martial law.
Ukraine's constitution was drafted with a possible Russian invasion in mind, and the deputies who made up the Constitutional Commission were Soviet Gulag-hardened dissidents. They realized that Russia would attack Ukraine, and that time has come. Today there is a consensus in Ukrainian society about the legitimacy of Zelenskyy's presidency. The Ukrainian people realize that presidential elections should be held only after the end of Russian aggression. From The Economist.
The ban on presidential elections is specified in the law on the legal regime of martial law.
It is specifically prohibited by the martial law to hold elections, and since the legislation governing elections has a whole series of requirements as to how and by what standards they are conducted, we are also well aware that it is impossible to ensure those standards. And at the end of the day, there are provisions in the legislation as well as in the Constitution regarding Parliament. For example, there is an explicit provision that prohibits holding elections during the martial law.
Kyiv's allies have no doubts about the legitimacy of the Ukrainian authorities. Meanwhile, the current Russian leadership is illegitimate. This is exactly what the resolution of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe from April 17, 2024 says. Not only has mass falsification of voting results become a tradition in Russia, but all elections after 2014 in Russia were held with illegal voting in the territories of Ukraine temporarily occupied by Russia. This is a direct violation of international law, which means that democratic states will not recognize the results of these elections. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Yulia Granovska, UATV News.